My name is Lorcan Brennan. I'm here in the Men's Development Network. I've been here for a good many years. We're celebrating 25 years today, as I say, but I think I've been here for up knocking on the door of probably about 20 of them. And it's been a really super experience. This morning, just listening to Sean pitch off on the morning and listening to the sound of the story of the work that's been going on over the last number of years, it's been really remarkable. And, you know, I was saying it to the last group that I was with when we sat down to think about how we might mark 25 years for the Men's Development Network. There was a couple of things that came to mind. The very first thing that came to mind was we said we wanted to do it probably through a conversational approach, which I thought was a nice idea. So it was new conversations. The second thing was we wanted to honor, especially the men, I heard Sean saying that this morning, who've been so much part in the heart and soul of the work of the Men's Development Net over the years, and all that we've learned in the company of one another, sitting in circles. And then the third part of that has been the alliances and the partners who've been so much part of what we've been trying to achieve in our work over the years. And Paula Carroll was on with a session in video earlier on, and one of the things we're saying is that I think they talked about the greater than the sum of the parts, that when we find community and when we find connection, we can do really wonderful things together. And so it's really lovely when we can do that together. This is coming towards the lunchtime kind of pass. And when we were looking at laying out the stalls around different workshops, I certainly wanted to do something. And one of the ideas I had was around this, the role of creativity in engaging men and boys. I wanted to bring a partner with me, never to go by myself. And Bernard Morgan he's there with me, my colleague as well. He's been very much attached to the Men's Development Network for almost 20 years. I think when I walked into the building, the original building we had, Bernard was there. So Bernard, I really appreciate you coming on here, and being part of this and sharing some of your work just today as well, just very, very briefly as well. So it's great that Bernard's here with us as well. So look at, just to say, I suppose, that we are celebrating 25 years, and to acknowledge the fact that for the last 25 years or so, Men's Development Network, in its methodologies, in its approaches, in the way that we've been trying to engage with men and boys, has always had, I would like to think, a creative default. It's been at the heart of what we've done. And many of the men who've been part of building that process and methodologies are still very much active in our communities, in our counties across the country. Martin is here with us today, a superb poet himself. And, you know, just to learning we've brought together from just sitting in circles as men, especially, has been just quite amazing. And when we think about creativity in the context of a few slides that we're going to go through later on, that have just some poetry and poems, and it'll give us some sense of what we've been about in relation to working creatively. But I suppose it could be said that all the work of the Men's Development Network has been off a default of a creative approach. That's the very first thing, because we've been learning, I suppose, as men in circles for the last 25 years. We have had our own national summer schools, we've had our regional days, we've had our school work, we've had our programs, we've had our podcasts, we've had our exhibitions, and many different groups of men have contributed to those across the years as well. And particularly Bernard, that's why he's here with me as well today, and he's going to share some of his own works as we go into the next 20, 30 minutes or 40 minutes or so. What we're going to focus on today, even though we've worked in very different mediums with men, engaging with men through photography and through art and through exhibition and podcasts, what we wanted to just bring as we were going into the lunchtime was just some of the written script or the written word that would have come from men who were together sitting in circles. That's what we just wanted to leave with you. And it's just, as I say, just maybe for a quiet while to be able to bring you some of that. And Bernard and myself are just going to bring you some of the sounds of that from the men who would have written stuff over the years coming out of the circles that we've been in together. So I'm glad that you're here with us. If, you know, people as well, we have, I think, a chat bar there somewhere, probably at the bottom. We have a chat bar. I'm going to open it up there. And if so, if you want to maybe an observation or to bring in something, it'd be really, really nice along the way. We can have a chat as we go along the way as well. So we're all ready to rock and roll, are we, just for a short while as we go into the lunch break? Yeah. Thank you very, very, very much. Bernard, you're here with me as well. I'm going to just share a screen here, folks, if you don't mind. I'm just going to put up some poems. And I'm going to go back to the start, if you don't mind, for a second. And I'll tell you a little bit about where we're going next. Hopefully this will work for us. Technology is fantastic when it works. So here we are, just a role of creativity in connecting and engaging with men and boys in Men's Development Network. And just to remind people again, I know you're online here at the moment, the Men's Development Network. If you want to have a look around at the expansive nature of the work that we're involved in, please do go on and look at the Men's Development Network, mensnetwork.ie, and you'll find loads of information in relation to what we do and what we're about. And if you're interested in the health and development side of the work, if you go on there as well and go down through, tap into the health section, you'll find lots of really good information in relation to the programs and the initiatives that we've been involved with across the years as well. I've said to you that Bernard's here with me, and Bernard has been writing poetry for many, many years. He's been a member of the Men's Development Network probably for over 20 years, and he'll say a little bit more about that probably as he reads a poem or two in a while. So Bernard, great that you're here with us. And you've always said that writing has helped on your life's journey in so many ways, both physically and mentally, and has a major impact in relation to supporting your journey to becoming your most authentic self and living in the world. Good man. I've said a little bit about myself. I've been very interested in the creative process for many years as well, and have been writing poetry as a support to my well-being and my health and my well-being over the years as well, which have been really, really nice. So we just stay with that. Just to say, and return to it, I'll give you a couple of examples in just visuals here. A lovely group of men that I worked with a number of years ago were based up in Wolftoned, or in Wexford, in County Wexford. They were a group of men who had never worked in the area of art before, and just over a number of weeks working with an artist who was really transformative. She came in and we turned this into an exhibition. It was one of the most marvelous experiences I had myself in relation to getting to know a group of men through using pastes and brushes, and literally reflecting on our lives in a kind of a circular kind of a way on every Wednesday night. When we had worked and the men had created this wonderful art together, we actually had a beautiful launch of it in Wexford itself. And I remember at the time the Lord Mayor launched it during the Opera Festival, which is a really artistic week down in County Wexford as well. And just to say, some of the poems that we'll be reading in a while has some of these beautiful images that set off some of the writings that have come from some of the men over the years. So as I say, we've a lot of stuff back in our archives that we could show you that celebrates and shows the different types of work that we have done with and for men and younger men in schools in relation to using the creative process for engaging with men and boys. Here was a lovely as well workshop that we had developed, and we'd done it with a group of men. We'd worked together in Arklow, and it was basically reflecting on through photography, places that bring us joy, peace and support and help for our well-being. And over a number of weeks, a group of men, a good group of men, a big group of men, we headed off with our cameras and we came back and we had taken photographs of places that were significant to our health and our well-being. And out of that, then we developed an exhibition of the photographs in Arklow, and we had a launch of them, which at the time was really, really good as well. One of the key parts, I suppose, where we work really creatively, I think, and engage men in a really creative process has always been our men's gathering. And thankfully this year we're having it in person again in October here in County Wexford. Over the years, we've met every year for this national gathering where men have met and have lived in circles, and we've shared about our lives, and we've shared about our struggles and our challenges, and we've supported each other to live hopefully in more flourishing ways along the way as well. So we're going to be looking forward to that. It's just another creative way of doing that. And in the process of working creatively, I suppose in those circles, one of the things that has developed over the years have been these 7 key questions. The 7 key questions have been at the heart of all of the work that we do in supporting ourselves and reflecting on our health and our well-being as well. They're very simple. You can see them there. How are things? They're like a poem in themselves. What's going well? What's not going so well? Is there anything you need to do? Are there any supports you need? What's one step you might take? And what difference might that make? They are so powerful and such beautiful, dynamic, transforming questions that have been at the heart of all of the work that we've been done over the last number of years. Those questions, again, have come from the men themselves in working in circles. and it become probably part of our key to how we engage with men across the years. We also work very creatively, I suppose, in relation to the programs we've developed. We have a national engaged training program that's rolled out across the country that we're one of the partners in, working with other key people as well, the Men's Health Forum in Ireland, the HSE, IT Carlow, as it was. Really interesting piece of work, working very creatively. We have a new group of people who've just been trained in a training for trainers, and they will be going out into the autumn of this year coming and into the years ahead, and they're going to be bringing the Engaged National Men's Health Training Programme literally across Ireland. And there's loads and loads of creative aspects to the way that we engage in health and well-being through that programme. It's worth keeping an eye out for if it's coming to your area. And finally, just to say, it probably is work, if you go in on our health section again, you will find there our podcasts and our SoundClouds that has the stories of men's lives. And we've loads of different interviews that will be going up there into the autumn as well, that are telling the stories of men's lives and that are celebrating some of what we're talking about here today. There's a lovely podcast on the Ramsgrange men, on the Wolf Tone men, different men who've been part of this creative process. So you can check that out afterwards, as I say. So just to begin with, I suppose the question we always ask when we're working or engaging with men is, you know, as I ask myself this question very often, where do I draw strength from creatively, especially in challenging times? And I suppose the conversation we started to have in the Men's Development Network in relation to working creatively literally came from that question in itself. And out of that grew a whole body of work in the early days of the organization, especially in relation to developing writing and broadsheets and publications. But when we've talked to our men across the years, especially through our summer schools, and we've asked them about creativity, these are the things that they've always come back and said that have been at the heart of their own health and well-being. I think that's a really important part of what we want to bring to this short space of time here together again. It all makes sense, the creative engagement of art, meditation, reading, drama, poetry, gardening. All of these things are so much part of the soulful way in which we can live in the world. But as I say today, we just hope that we're going to bring some of the written word. And Bernard especially is going to share some of that with us as we go into just the workshop along the way. So we plan to focus on that. You can see here poems from Reflections from Men in a Circle. It was a lovely workshop that came out of a summer school. I think it was 1996, where a number of the men had all written poems, and we had a great celebration and a launch of the men afterwards at an event in Galway sometimes later. Why I wanted to speak a little bit, I suppose, about the creative writing aspects of the work that we do in the Men's Health and the Men's Development Network was because the original pieces of work we were doing in relation to men's health came out of this program, which is a simple little program called Creative Writing Towards Good Mental Health. And basically it was based on inviting men to reflect on our lives and to just write simple stories around how it is we were feeling in relation to living in the world as we were in this strange and wonderful world. So what I'm going to ask, I suppose, Bernard to say to us maybe before we begin, there's a few slides here, and we're going to have a chat about just some of the poems that he's written himself and some of the poems that have come from other places. We've left the poetry here anonymous today because it's come from men who probably would like to leave some of their work anonymous. But I'm going to start with a simple poem that came from a man who was at one of our summer schools as well. And we used to do this where we'd have our summer schools and we'd ask the men if they wished to write something that started with "since coming here." And over a number of summer schools, men came back with some really beautiful and insightful and supportive things that we want to share some of that with you here just for a short while today. I'll just read this one. There's a lovely one from a man, and that's just see how it lands. Since coming here, I've delighted in the presence of men, listening to their heartfelt, honest stories and their sharings. I've been reminded again of the power of men safe in circles, talking their lives. Since coming here, my tiredness is lifted. Tiredness that is fear of being alone, as a man with no other men to listen. Since coming here, I'm surrounded with hope that more men might sit in circles and plan their lives not from strategies thought out from their heads, but from the revealing and discerning of their freed up hearts and spirits. Little poem that came from a man after having the experience of literally finding the safety and the support of sitting with other men in a circle. Bernard, can I bring you in, please? Because when I met you first, I'm nearly 60, but I think you must have been 5 when we met you first, because I met you 20 years ago.
Round 2.
Lovely to build the relationships over the year. But I know that you were very much part of coming in and sitting in those circles with men, and you've written very beautifully about that experience across your time and across the years. And this was one that I found, The Men in the Circle, that was one of yours, and the painting is actually by one of the men that I was telling you about, who participated in one of our workshops in relation to reflecting on his life. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this, Bernard, for a few moments, and maybe give it a read first and tell us?
This came out, I think I wrote this after my 2nd or 3rd summer school, just attending the summer schools, being in the circle of men, and the powerful effect it had on me. It scared me, but it also helped me so much, and it's after helping me become the man I am today. And it's just the powerful impact that these circles have on me. And this is where the poem came from, and it's just amazing the powerful, how it resonates with each man. I'm speaking for myself as well. Just the powerful effect of the circle of men. It's such a simple thing, a circle, and just the powerful things that can happen in that circle. It's just amazes me every time. And this is where this poem comes from. Can
we hear the sound of it from your own lovely voice, Bernard, and let it say where you came from?
Men in a circle. Men in a circle, talking from the heart. Each man is either listening or talking, but is taking part. All over the country, men talk and sit. Males talking and sharing is no longer a myth. Men don't have to be strong or made out of steel. They can cry, shake, and talk about issues that for them are real. Friendships are molded, connections are made. Men can talk to each other and no longer be afraid. Men are no longer isolated and can stand tall. Men sharing in a circle is creating better lives for men, better lives for all.
Very beautiful, very powerful. Michael Hennessy and Martin Vernon are there on the screen. I can see them there. Michael, any memories of that? Do you mind me calling you in just for a minute? Just when the men in circles.
Thanks for that, Bernard. Thanks, Lorcan. Jesus, that just transports me right back. I was sitting here and I'm listening to you, and I'm also looking at another screen. I'm looking at 2-3 screens here, and I was kind of a little bit, but that just landed me. That has landed me really, really well. It was lovely, and just remembering those big old halls and the smells and the noises and the fear. You could actually smell the fear, and you said it there. You could smell that fear, but just men stepping in there and owning their space within that. Owning their space within that was lovely.
It is lovely. It's a lovely poem. You know, it's a lovely poem. We're just going to leave some of the poems with us. We're going to keep moving, and if people want to come in, I'll come back to you again, because just to hear the sound of some of these poems from men that sat in circles. Another lovely painting by a man as well. I remember the painting that you're looking at. I remember these men, they had never ever done anything in relation to art, and such a beautiful experience to be with them over, I think it was 6 weeks. The girl was Claire Kavanagh, who worked with us. And God, she was amazing, just chatting to us about colour and light and experience and that. So since coming here to your company, I've been reminded yet again how all men need this space. How young boys playing with their toys must learn early feeling words to play with, to try out their sounds and shapes, that one day young boys becoming older boys and older men will know the conscious difference between thinking and feeling, and live fuller, richer lives from the gift of both. Simple little poem as well, you know. Another summer school one, Bernard, would you like to go? Beautiful painting again by some of the men from that other workshop that we're on. Say a little bit about this one first, Bernard.
This was wrote after my very first summer school, which was wasn't my first, not sure, but it was close enough to my first summer school. And I wrote this, and it was in Carlow, the St. Patrick's College was my first summer school. So this came out of this. I wrote it actually the Saturday night when we were at the summer school, and this is what came out. Summer school. To a conference of around 60 men in an old college, to discuss men's issues which I have no knowledge, to sit in a circle surrounded by males, all talking openly about their life stories and tales, to see men talk, cry and shake in this open way scared me to death then and even today. To the small groups where the real sharing takes place, can the other men see this fear on my face? 5 or 10 minutes, each man has this space to talk. When it came around to me, I got up and began to walk. This is not for me, I said, with tears in my eyes, but with encouragement from a man, I came to realize that talking can clean out all those issues that are inside. I stayed at this summer school till the bitter end, talked to one and perhaps made a friend. Men's groups and summer schools, I still go today. This is men being men in a different way.
Thanks, Fer. Really lovely. I'm just recalling what Sean was saying this morning when he introduced the morning conference, and he was just talking about, you know, about transforming men, but transforming masculinities, and, you know, the power of men sitting in circles. Certainly, you know, has been such an important part of many men's lives in Ireland, and important part of our lives, certainly. People on the screen here who I see, it's just lovely to see this. We you know, we need so much of this, you know. I just wanted to put this poem in because it's from my dad, and my father and myself, we had a good old relationship. It doesn't always happen that way, not necessarily, but I was blessed to have this lovely guy as part of my life. He's gone a good while from the world, but I feel very close to him always still, and I felt close to him always through the poetry and through. He was a really interesting kind of a man to spend time with, and a kind guy, a kind man to be with, you know. And I wrote this poem, and I found it about 4 or 5 months ago. I'd misplaced it and it came up again, and it was called A Tribute to My Father at a Wall in Kilquiggan. He was a builder, and he was a small builder in a small village with a little group of men who worked with him. They were a lovely group of guys to grow up with, eating your sandwich in the middle of them on building sites. But we used to go when I got my first car, and it was an interesting one because it's going back to Bernard's last poem, that at that stage, you know, as a man and as a son and as a dad and as a son and a man and a younger man, trying to find reasons to be together and close and making excuses nearly to do that. And I had my little small red car at the time. I remember, delighted with myself. And we used to think up ways of being together. And this was where I brought him to see a wall up in Kilquiggan, up over Shillelagh in County Wicklow, where he had worked as a young man building it. And it was just our way of trying to find excursions to be together. And it's just about that. Just as recently, the cold about us, we have set out in search of something never spoken, pretending there are sights to see or fields to climb, and now a wall in a high cold place that leads to nowhere. Together there is mystery, unsolved. We are happy to be about it. Close together, no need for speed. In my small car, we climb winding roads to the highest point yet, near Tinahely. Here we can go no further, a new height, where average and ordinary are left far below, barely in view. How happy I am on this winter afternoon that something is captured, something never spoken, yet hardly left unsung. You know, so again, it's a poem I certainly couldn't have written unless I'd sat in those circles with all of the people over the years that kind of help you to resonate with that love that you can have for somebody. And again, that interesting thing, he died in his 70s, but that was written early on, that poem. We had become very, very close by then, and we didn't need to make excuses to be in a small car heading for nowhere, which was a lovely gift to get in this world as well, you know. Bernard, give us, it's like a duet here. We should have an
It is, isn't it? Well, as you can see, most of my, well, not most, but a good majority of my poems come from the experiences from the Men's Network and all the various events that I have been to, especially the summer schools or the men's gatherings. So a lot of my poetry just come from that, but it just shows how much this means to me and how much I'm after growing because of the experiences with the Men's Network. And this was another poem, and this is where I started to experiment and not concentrate on the rhyme, but concentrate on what I want to say. A tribute to a dear friend with whom I had a connection through this work. I know a man, I know a friend, I know someone whom I respect. I know the spirit of this man. I know good that is within. I know the hard work that he does. I know the love of this work. I know the support I get from this man. I know the laughs and the banter. I know the connection. I know the connection.
Beautiful. I know the connection. Why do you say it twice? I know the connection. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's just the connection that I felt with this man. And it really just resonated with me, and I still feel it to this day, and this is 20 years on. So I know the connection. I know the connection. It's just like an imprint or a full stop. I know this connection. I know it works, and it just needs to be said.
Very good. Very, very, very powerful. Thanks, Bear. Good. Over the last number of years, we've, in the Men's Development Network, celebrated International Men's Day. And it's become an important calendar event, especially last year for the organization, for many other organizations. But it was really lovely to be able to get out. And one of the ideas we had was, again, how could we celebrate the good men, the men who have been part of our lives? And like Bernard, we can say about them, I know the connection, I know the connection. And I was thinking about many of the good men who'd been part of my life, including my dad, who I've just shared about. And I was coming back from being with a group of men, actually, and I pulled in and I wrote these lines at the side of a road and then finished it afterwards that evening. And I called the poem Call Out. And it's just, I suppose, that this conference even today is very much about that, the call out that's there for all of us, whatever age we are, wherever we are in our lives, whatever the challenges, the opportunities, that, you know, I think when we do stuff together, we are better. Splendid isolation does not serve anybody particularly well. It's nice to be able to sit in our own company and be well and true and glad to be in our own company. But to find and work together, I think, has to be the march and the map ahead. And it celebrates, I suppose, that. And maybe it's really at the heart of what we're about today as well, looking to the future. It just says, call out the new songs, become our better selves, sense the change upon the wind, our chance again to be our brightest light, to be the values, qualities, and actions that can launch a million hearts to joy. Let's dream and act big, big-hearted, loving as we go, remembering the other men who loved, who taught us how to be the good. Lean in. Stop working by yourself. See how light this is to lift together. Here now. Look me in the eye with gentle trust. On the count of 3, together. Let's begin. There. Somebody wrote this, I think, at the end of the summer school.
They did.
2 years ago.
A powerful piece. Lest we forget, 20 men spent 2 days together. Each one had the opportunity to tell their story and hear 20 stories and be heard by 20 men. This is mighty work. Its impact on our lives is mighty. Being heard by one is significant. Being heard by 20 different men of different backgrounds, ages, classes, upbringing, orientation is mighty. It is this difference that brings the challenge and the power of this way of work and gratitude.
Thanks, Barrett. It's beautiful. I'm just looking at these PowerPoints now and saying, my God, it'd make beautiful boards, you know, on a wall. That's a beautiful, you know, 1 minute read and you have the power of a story told. It's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, least we forget. We have a colleague called Liam who worked and was really absolutely central to the development of a lot of the early work in the Men's Development Network and across the years. And I know he's on another workshop today as well. But I learned so much in Liam Bulger's company. He wouldn't mind me saying his full name, because I've seen him holding the space for us as men, large, small, in all kinds of gatherings, hundreds and hundreds of men. And he just was a remarkable gift that he brings and uses generously, as do many other men that I know through the network. But when he was retiring, I wanted to capture something about, I suppose, the gift that he's brought to all of us, you know. And I tried to imagine if I could get a snapshot of what it was like to see him in action when he was holding a space that he created for us men to be ourselves and be our authentic selves. And this is the poem called Connection. Poem for Liam. Take your time, you said to him. Slow it down. Look gently round the circle and see. All these men are here for you now. And so he did. So very slowly, gently, shyly to begin, our searching man gazed eye to eye with all us fellow men, reaching out, finding rest and safety in our soft and steady returning gaze, beginning to recover his buried maps for home, to kind and loving self, experiencing a new connection. That's for Liam. Some gift to be able to sit with men and allow a man to find that, or to sit with any group beyond gender. Just a lovely gift. So just to honor him today. Folks, we're only going to spend another few moments. We'll open up for a bit of a chat in a few moments, but there's another few little poems to go. And here's one from Bear, just the Where To Now. Have a look at it now.
Where to now? Trace my path backwards as far as the mind will allow. Breadcrumbs of previous adventures speckle the memory thoroughfare. Where to now? So many escapades to attain, old and new aspirations unite somehow. Life's simple diversions I hold a new regard. Where to now? Erudition of self no more, just a mirror image, oh wow. The attainment and belief boat has docked, the high tide fills me, I know where to now.
Can you tell us a bit about that, Bear?
Yeah, this was wrote during lockdown, and I used lockdown just for myself personally. I used it in a lot of ways. I did a lot of online courses and workshops, and it was just an appreciation of the simple things that I took for granted that I couldn't do during lockdown, and I so wanted to do. And when I was able to do it, these little things, just meeting a friend, just the simple things that sometimes I take for granted. That's where that poem was born out of.
It's a beautiful poem, you know, beautiful writing. And the painting again is by one of the men. As I say, they're lovely. They really set off, they really do set off the poems. Really, really lovely, you know. I'm just conscious of the time for us, folks. It's 20 to 1. I'm just going to do one more poem, and then if we have, I think I'll use this one here, the poet, and then we'll make, if anybody would like to read a poem or say hello or whatever, if you have any questions, please do come and have a chat to us. This is just a simple little poem. Again, I live in a place called Ballycanoe. I'm here in my garden at the end of the house, and up the road there's a little garden, and I was sitting up in it one evening some months back, and this dawned on me. And I suppose it's to remind all of us. People say, oh, I'm not a singer, or people say I'm not a writer, or people say I'm not an artist. I remember reading somewhere that when you go into school and you go into an infant class and you ask them to put up your hand, who's an artist, everybody puts up their hand. And probably in first class and second class, good amount put up their hands, but as it goes up through the system, the hands drop. We lose the fact that we believe that there's art or creativity within us, you know. So I suppose this is just a poem I want to finish with in relation to that, and just to remind us that we are artists, you know, we are soulfully alive, and it's just called poet. You say you're not a poet, but listen well. A living script within your heart searches continually to tell you the story of your best lived life. Yes, your undivided heart forever lifts you towards emerging light, to feel upon your face the stirring, sensuous breeze, to open wide your life, to hear your soul's awakening song. Very good. Folks, has anybody Martin Brennan, please sing a song for me. It's lovely that you're here.
Hi everyone. Lorcan and Bernard, fair play to you both for putting on this workshop. I really think that a lot of men really struggle to express themselves in what's happening with them, and creativity is one of those ways in, and it's certainly been a way in for me. It's been, I think, literally life-saving for me to start to write, which I started after being in a horrendous accident. And so I think, you know, if we can find ways to organize things to help people help men to find their creativity will be well on the way to improving men's lives. Would it be okay for me to share a poem?
Would you please just say to you, Martin, before you do share? I was only talking to Sean yesterday, the day before, about when we were talking about this workshop, and you're one person I want to talk to now in the autumn and all, around, you know, again, developing this pillar of the work much more into the future, you know, because I know you've been so much part of that. Sing us a poem before, you know, we let people go for a bit of lunch early.
Okay, this is a poem called Big Boys Will Cry. I have only just learnt to cry a lifetime of tears. Big boys don't cry. I do. I will lend myself out to the men of the world, keener to the lads. I will cry for men who can't yet cry for themselves. I will run crying courses, crying festivals, and slowly boys and men will start to cry, first alone, and then in front of their mates, and then in public. Teams of rough, tough men and gentlemen will share their tears. Before long, we men will learn to feel at ease with feeling. Men will know that it's okay to talk to each other, to our partners, to our friends, to counselors, to cry out for help. Stop keeping it all in. Stop hiding our pain. Stop pretending to cope. Stop dying alone by suicide.
Really, really powerful, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for coming on today, folks, with us just for the short while. I see just put on the chat bar there a moment ago, and I see Robert was asking about, you know, about the age group of men in circles, and, you know, the age group has always been probably slightly older. In the sense, except, as I said, with Bernard, you were probably, and Michael Hennessy was probably about 5 and 7 when we met you first, the young men. But it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic opportunity, I think, if we can be more and more ambassadors for creating the safety where we can sit and be creative and listen to one another and create that safety in relation to transforming our masculinities and transforming our lives and living flourishing lives. It would be just so fantastic, and hopefully that will be part of the next 25 years as well of that. But again, just look, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful poem. Really, really lovely, and we will talk soon, please God. Bernard, do you want to add anything just before we go?
Just the creativity. Without the men's network, I know I've been writing poems from a young age, but so much inspiration has come from being involved with the men's network, and that's where I draw the strength. That's where how I live my best life at the moment, is through the experiences from the network. And it was really great to be here today.
Thanks very much for coming on with us. We wanted to do it like in school, you know, that we didn't want to keep you for the hour so people feel we're getting out of school early. But it's we just really appreciate people coming on here. And I see some questions. If anybody has anything that they want to check in with us about, you can please do go on our website as well. Men in Circles, there's some running nationally. If you come back and check in with us through our website, we'll come back to you on that as well. If you check in with us at the Men's Development Network, we'll let you know more about that. And we hope that you'll stay with the rest of the conference for the day. There's some really lovely pieces to come as well, and especially for the final part of the day when we come into land, we're going to be looking at what might hope look like for all of us in the work as we go forward. And I think that's going to be a really important part of of our planning and our mapping as well. And with some lovely partners coming on to be part of that conversation at the end of the day as well. So look, it go well, and get some lunch for yourselves now, and really appreciate you coming in, and Bernard especially for coming and sharing his stories and his poems and his life. It's been really, really lovely.